This is Deploy Asana Successfully. Welcome to episode number 4. Today, with my friend Bastien Siebman, we're going to teach you how to train your team using Asana. Welcome to Deploy Asana Successfully. So, here we are, episode number 4 of Deploying Asana Successfully. Here with my friend Bastien Siebman. Bastien, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you. How are you?
Good. I'm David Jané, and like Bastien, we are Asana consultants, and we spend these 30 minutes every week talking about how to deploy Asana successfully. Busy, Bastien, after summer?
Yeah, quite busy. Summer was quiet, and then everybody wants to start deploying Asana again, I guess. So yeah, quite busy. What about you?
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. After, I would say, July, that was pretty active. August in Spain, everyone's on holiday, everyone's on the beach or traveling. And the first week of September, it's like the kickoff, a new season, and plenty of teams make like their resolutions. It's like New Year's resolutions, but the new season resolutions, where I guess people sign up for the gym, they sign up for English or French lessons, and some companies sign up to use Asana. So all good. Cool. So after the first episodes where we discussed the first steps that every organization has to take when deploying Asana, we discussed the previous conversations, the previous analysis, the type of workflows that you can deploy in your Asana workspace. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that's quite important. It's about training your team. And it's important to put everyone on the same page and that everyone has like the basic knowledge to use Asana on a daily basis. And how would you approach Vashin when you talk to an organization and you have to explain them the investment in time and money they have to make in order to train their team to use Asana? Although Asana is a very intuitive tool, it's very basic and it's easy to use, but a training is required.
Yeah, so Asana is easy to use, but you can easily make the wrong decisions when using Asana. For example, you might look at the My Tasks view as something that is not that useful if it's not explained properly. So you might discard that view, even though that's the most important view. And also, you have a big subset of the users that do not like new tools at all. And they usually see a new tool as something complicated that's going to take up some time and energy. And you have to explain to them the benefit for the team, but also the benefit for them of using Asana. We usually, it's quite easy to understand how the tool works, but we really want to train them on the best practices in order for them to have the maximum value when using a tool like Asana.
Yeah, my perspective is that it's important to set the right layers of training because it's not the same the training for a basic user that will have to check their task, probably delegate some tasks, and maybe make a light follow up of the projects than the training that will require a project manager that has to create templates or that has to play with
Yes.
rules or reporting. So understanding these layers inside an organization, like, okay, this set of users will go with a basic training. This set of users will take the advanced training, and then we might have even a third layer that is an Asana admin training where you discuss topics like the admin console, inviting users, how to check your insights, and so on. And going back to the basic training, I totally agree that usually the whistles and bells of Asana distract a little bit the attention, and people want to start playing with custom fields and playing with projects and portfolios. And I like to invest a lot of time in two very basic things that are how to correctly create a task, like what's a good title for a task, what's a good description for a task, how to decide the assignee of a task and the due date and all this stuff. So because I think that this is in the foundation of a healthy Asana setup. And the other one is, as you mentioned, my task. Because in other tools like Trello or maybe Notion, people spend a lot of time fishing for their task and for their work, browsing around the tool. And Asana has this powerful section that is called My Task, where you have all you have to do. So if you take care of this section and tasks are correctly set up, then it's like you will speed up a lot the deployment. Do you agree on that?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
do.
think?
No, I do. When you deploy Asana, usually it comes from champions, so internal people that are passionate about Asana. And I think one of the biggest risks that they face is not realizing that most people do not want to know how things work behind the scene, and they are not equipped to deal with setting up a project and workflows. So most people should not be taught how to use automation rules, even create portfolios, or even create project for that matter. Most people should simply play with tasks, changing an assignee, and posting a comment. And what's funny is when we started doing Asana consulting a couple of years ago, my partner Julian, he actually went to a training for trainers, so something to train people on how to train other people. And what the person said was, usually you try to push too much information to your students. You try to teach too much. So over the years, we started to reduce the scope of what we teach, all the way to simply what's a project, how to create a task, how to use comments, and then my task and inbox. And that's it. We barely touch on custom fields. We do a very small demo to show them. We barely touch on automation. We barely touch on portfolios. We really want them to know how to create a task, how to assign it to someone, and how to answer a comment. And then my task inbox, which are very important. If you don't use my task and inbox, then you're just completely missing the point. And you might actually find Asana not that great because you're just missing the point. You're not using it the way it was intended to be used. And I agree with you. Specific people should be trained specifically. So champions should have advanced trainings. Admins should be trained on the admin console. And then you have all the leadership team that should be trained on goals and portfolios and dashboards.
Yeah, totally agree. I would say that sometimes when you train, you are in a push mindset where you push knowledge to the team, and I think that you have to push for the basics, but usually these advanced features like the custom fields or rules or multi-homing tasks, sometimes it's the user that has to pull this information because they have a need. Like
Yeah, exactly. They have to feel the pain, and you tell them
exactly.
that's perfect. There's a feature for this, instead of telling them there's this and this and this and this, and they don't really understand how they're going to use it. They have to feel the pain, and you give them the solution. I think it has a bigger impact, as you're saying.
Yeah. You mentioned that sometimes when you have a group of users that have to be trained, you feel the friction, like the users are sometimes hesitant to learn a new tool. Or for me, the most common question is, will Asana mean extra work for me? So
Yeah.
I am like drown into work, and should I do additional work? How do you tackle this type of fears or this type of friction?
We usually never walk into an account and train people right away. We usually have a framing with the champions, we build workflows with them, and then we train everybody on the basics. Those initial steps are very important because you have to understand the mindset of the company and the environment. You have to understand where they're coming from. If they tried Monday for a year and it didn't work, and then they're trying Asana, you know it's going to be completely different from a client going from Excel to Asana. The main difference is what you're going to tell them is exactly what someone from Monday told them a year ago. You have to invest time, you have to learn, you have to master the tool, you have to do this and that. And some people might have jumped into the tool and really trained themselves just to realize that some people higher up decided that no, Monday is not a good tool. Maybe it's too expensive. We have to go to a different tool. So you have to do it all over again. So they might be disappointed and they might have lost trust in the leadership team. And maybe they don't want to train on that specific tool. And I've had people tell me this specifically, like, I'm not going to learn Asana because I know in 6 months they're going to walk away, they're going to go to a different tool. They always do this. So you have to really understand what's going on within the company. And then what we try to do is to explain to the users how other people in the industry are working. We want to show them that it actually works for other in the industry, and we try to tell a lot of stories. For example, we don't teach features, we tell stories, and those features are a way to illustrate those stories. For example, my task, you don't explain really how my task works, you just explain that you're going to get clarity again, you're going to lose that overwhelming feeling, you're going to be able to delegate easily, you're going to be able to show your boss everything you already have to do, and they're putting some more stuff on your plate, and you can show them, and there's lots of stories you can tell. And I think that's very important compared to just a regular training where you just push some features at them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if our viewers want to check our first episode, it's very important to connect the training with the analysis, the discovery conversations you had in the past. Because in these discovery conversations, in this analysis, you have to make the pains arise. So you will understand if it's a matter of people anxiety, like they are drowned in tasks and they don't know what has to be done and who has to do it and by when. So it's like tackling these pains in the training. Like we heard in previous conversations that you had this problem, and now with these new habits, with these new routines, using this Asana My Task View, this pain has to be relieved. So it's not saying, okay, it's an additional layer of work. It's like you will have to trade these meetings, this email research, when you have to find something, you have to search in conversations that have thousands of messages. No, it's the work that has to be done. It's clear. It's in my task, and what's not in Asana doesn't exist.
Yeah, and also you have the day-to-day work, which is easier and less overwhelming, and you have the what I call specific events. Someone joins the team. You have project templates. They don't have to be onboarded for days like it used to be. Someone leaves the team, then you can get all the tasks they had and reassign them to someone. Someone is suddenly sick, you can see all the tasks they had to do for the next 3 days and reassign them to people. So all of those events that used to be very painful, they're not that painful anymore. When you go back from holiday, you can quickly catch up, go through the inbox, and just start working again. You don't have to read all those emails and long threads to finally discover that the discussion was settled and you had to go through all of that discussion. So really, there's lots of specific events that also makes a tool like Asana really useful to have on a daily basis.
Cool. How should a basic training session look like? On our case, it's a 2-hour session. Usually, it's the first 90 minutes. It's showing these Asana foundations, like how to create a task, how to use my task, how to read information and process information using my inbox, and the basic information about projects, and the last 30 minutes it's more like questions about specific use cases or specific pains that users have. Do you think this is enough, or?
Yeah, I think it's good if we talk about the duration, the content, and is it on site or remote. So, for
Yeah, it
example,
makes a
the duration.
difference.
Yeah, the duration. My feeling is that my experience shows me that 2 hours is very long. People are struggling to stay focused for 2 hours. So we settled with an hour and a half. Even that is hard for some people. You can see them, they're dropping off, they're reading emails at the same time, they're just doing other stuff. But an hour is not enough. So we usually settle for an hour and a half. The way we design trainings at the moment is we start by discussing the Asana philosophy and architecture, the pyramid of clarity, and how things are organized. Then we give them a 5 to 10 minute demo. So we show them what an Asana account looks like when used properly to inspire them. And then we jump into hands-on exercises. So we get them to create a project, create tasks, use comments, and they comment each other. And usually they find like funny names and funny comments, and it keeps everybody engaged. And we try to answer questions as they come. And as I said earlier, we reduced the scope quite drastically. So it's really project, task, comments, and then my task inbox. And my tasks inbox are shown at the end of the training. This is the way we currently operate. Because we
Cool.
have to show them that you create project, you have tasks, and then you have tools to deal with those tasks that you've created. Instead of showing my task, even though you haven't explained what's a task or what's a project yet, showing the inbox, even though they haven't used comments yet either. So we find this way of doing is working quite well.
Right, it's inspiring. I usually, when I do our basic training, I do my task inbox projects. So it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense, because usually when you start by task and you go to the my task and inbox, it's quite empty. So it's like you have to say, here you will find comments, you will
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
when someone completes a task. So it makes a lot of sense. You said in person or online. What are the pros and the cons of each
Yeah, so we
type
do
of?
95% of our meetings online. We do 5% on site when the clients request it. The biggest problem we have is people doing something else at the same time. I think
I
that's
agree.
one of the biggest problem in the industry. Try to keep people engaged. Try to get them to show their face, because we as trainer, we want to see what they're doing. We want to see if they are engaged and listening. So that's by far that's the biggest problem we have. When you go on site, it's amazing. People are engaged. You have fun. Things tend to take more time on site. A training can easily take 2 hours because we can laugh about stuff and discuss side topics and have a coffee break, which we wouldn't have online. And also the big problem is the commute, like going there, going back, you have to arrive early. So a 2 hour training easily turns into a 4 to 6 hours engagement, which will effectively triple the cost for the client. That's why we usually do most of the work online.
Yeah, I totally agree that sometimes, especially, it's important if it's an on-site training, that everyone has their, at least their laptop
Oh yeah.
or an iPad or a tablet, so they can follow the training and interact, as you mentioned. And I agree that sometimes when it's like a difficult engagement and you think that it's important to get everyone on board and get everyone involved, on-site trainings are much better than online. Let's talk about another topic. Usually, yeah, the Asana is pretty flexible, so you can name the projects as you want. You can name the tasks. You can have like some recommendations or some best practices, but it's super flexible. And one of the potential pitfalls when deploying Asana is that Asana becomes the Wild West. Everyone uses their own custom fields. They name the projects in many different ways. This makes search and advanced search quite complicated. Let's talk about conventions. Um, the way that I usually put this on the table is, as I said, Asana is really flexible. So we have to agree on a few topics, like how we are going to name the projects, which custom fields should be used. Usually this is in the advanced training, not in the basic training. But there are a few topics that we have to agree, like the custom fields naming, integrations, probably forms. Well, it depends on the organization. How do you approach this part of deploying Asana that it's not technical, it's not Asana features related? Is how we are going to agree to use Asana.
I've seen clients write a 50-page document on conventions, and I've seen clients don't do anything specific. My personal favorite is to wait and see. I really feel like most teams are well-educated, reasonable people, and they will name projects properly. And I also feel like it's better to let people do whatever they want initially and then slowly but surely introduce rules. Otherwise, being onboarded onto Asana becomes about reading those 50 pages, digesting them, getting 3 different trainings, and then using a tool, and you're afraid of breaking things and not following the guidelines. So I really think going slowly is better. I also think, and this is something I think about quite a lot, is how can we use AI and automation to enforce those best practices and conventions? For example, what if you name a project, you create a project, and then 24 hours later, you get a task assigned to you by AI saying, we feel like your project should be named this way. What do you think? I think it's way better because it did not stop them in their tracks. They can still start doing work, but you slowly help them improve things. So naming the project is one, or maybe an AI that creates a task saying, we can see you use the priority field that is local to the project. Do you know there's a company field you should use? In addition to this, you can also have some human going through all the fields once a year and trying to clean up everything, archiving projects. So I think a combination would be interesting. And yeah, this is an idea I've been playing with. I think quite quickly, we're going to need something to make sure that the accounts are healthy and that the data is clean. Because also, if you look at AI, which is one of the big topic, the data has to be clean. If you don't name tasks properly, if you don't use due dates or dependencies properly, then AI can't extract quality information. So we need to find ways and tools to make sure that this data is clean and that people produce clean data from the get-go instead of having to manually fix everything that people do.
Well, that idea of AI like mentoring or tutoring your workspace sounds really, really interesting. Because I think that one of the duties of the Asana champions is like acting as custodian or guardians of the space, like checking that that it's not the Wild West. Going back to conventions, I think that I agree. I think that probably it's not black or white. Probably it's not living to free will or being super strict with the 50-page instructions. But I like to drop the concept. Like, yeah, Asana is really flexible. At some point, you will need these conventions because otherwise, it's possible that you can end up with 7 different custom fields to define priority, and then it's not possible to have reporting or proper segmentation of the work if you have to search in different custom fields. and this is one of the things that these Asana champions inside the team have to take care of, to be vigilant about what are the potential risks they are facing. Maybe it's project naming, or maybe it's someone creating. Now that Asana plans have the advanced plan has some limits when it comes to portfolios or rules. Someone might be creating portfolios for their own use, and it's not correct. So someone has to take care of this, and it's important that this is put on the table during the training part of the deployment. I think.
And the admin console is getting better. You have some usage and insights tool within the admin console, and I think a lot of features can help you enforce those guidelines. For example, project templates. That's one of the most obvious one. If you get a basic project template that anybody should use when creating a project, including a priority field and a time tracking field, that's good. If you look at bundles, that's also a way to make sure people have the same rules and sections. So there's different ways to make sure that those rules are being enforced by pushing people to use the existing templates and bundles, project templates and task templates.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Asana is going in that direction, and there are some features like having an administration for the custom fields, where you can check all the custom fields that have been created, in which projects are they used, and well, being able to patrol a little bit your workspace and having the right tools. It's quite important. Otherwise, if you have to like fish for the information around all the projects, it's impossible. Yeah. Let's talk about these other advanced or admin trainings. Anything you think that someone that is deploying Asana has to keep in mind when deploying this advanced training? Any specific feature? As we said that my task or inbox is maybe key, are the unsung heroes of the basic training. In the advanced training, you think there's something?
Yeah, I usually try to do the advanced training as workshops. So when you work with the champions, and they usually need a form that would create tasks in a project, you will need automation. You're going to add that project to a portfolio. So any typical workflow will touch on the most basic features of Asana for champions. So we usually don't give them an actual advanced training, but we go into workshop with them. We make sure that they are the one holding the mouse and the keyboard, and we teach them by doing, basically. And I feel like that's working better. Instead of having a formal training on how to create a form, we just create the form they need, and they will touch on everything that's needed, like branches and rules and settings within the form. They will touch on everything for sure.
So probably it's a matter of picking one of the workflows that have been listed in previous stages and say, well, this workflow might be the perfect workflow to see all these advanced features. Makes sense. It's at least, I mean, users will feel more identified with that workflow. And if you show them the typical customer support workflow with all the forms and the rules, that maybe they don't have customer support, and it's like, okay, that's nice, it looks good, but we don't need it. Cool.
Yeah, but the challenge is, just to finish on this, the challenge is when you have multiple champions belonging to different departments, you're gonna do a workshop on the workflow for one of them. But the others, they have to watch, they have to help, they have to challenge each other. If they look at their emails while the other champion is working, it doesn't work. So that's the challenge. You have to make sure all the champions communicate and collaborate, even if the workflow doesn't impact them, within that workshop.
What would be the right size or the sweet spot in terms of size for basic training or an advanced training? Because I think that it's not possible to run like a 500 people basic training. It's impossible to keep.
Yeah, it's a good question. Usually our hands-on basic training is between 10 to 15 people maximum. I think above that number, you have a group effect of if half of the room doesn't have cameras on, then most of the people will just turn them off and you lost everybody. I once did a 70 people basic training. It does work, but it can't really be hands-on because you can't follow if people are doing the work. So it's more formal, but it does work. For advanced trainings or workshops, I think up to 5 champions, I think that's good. If you go above that number, it really depends on the company culture and how involved people are. I've had groups of like 10 champions, very involved, very motivated. It works great. And I have groups of 4 champions where it doesn't work because they don't help each other. Really depends on the group, but I think 5 champions or less is ideal for advanced trainings.
Cool. Excellent. We reached the end of this 4th episode. Today we talked about trainings. If you want to learn more about Asana, about trainings, about deploying Asana, if you need some help, you can reach out to Bastien Siebman, ido-clarity.com, or myself, David Jané, volcanic.agency. We'll be super happy to help you. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them. And next week, we can talk about change management, which is a good topic. How to, especially in big organizations that have work always the same way, sometimes very old style companies, how to inspire and seduce them to change their mindset and embrace the Asana way of work. And it's not only about the tools, it's, as I said, it's a mindset. Bastien Siebman, thank you
See you
very
next week.
much. See you next week.
Bye.